This week on Christian World News, relief for Nepal. The world rushes to help the victims of a devastating earthquake. Despite suffering massive losses, the country's church is responding too. Plus, our exclusive report from Niger, how Muslim mobs took to the streets targeting Christians and how the churches responded. And God's Air Force, the high-flying ministry that's taking the gospel around the world. Welcome everyone to this week's edition of Christian World News. I'm George Thomas. My colleague Wendy Griffith is on assignment. The Nepal earthquake devastated members of this tiny Christian community. Many were attending church services when the quake hit. As many as 600 Christians may have been killed. Gary Lane brings us the story of one church destroyed in Kathmandu.
Fortunately, no one was killed when parts of this ancient Hindu temple collapsed in Kathmandu. However, that was not the experience of some Nepali churches. It was about 2 minutes before noon. 62 Christians were gathered on the fourth floor of this building for their Saturday worship service. The ground started shaking. The fourth floor collapsed on top of the other floors below it, and then 17 Christians were killed, including the senior pastor, Elijah. Jacob Tamang is assistant pastor of Vision Salvation Church.
He was the British Gorkha Army and he retired from there and he got citizenship of Britain and he was settled over there, but because of the glory of God, he had a great vision to serve God and he came back to Nepal.
And as a result, Pastor Elijah Gale planted 60 churches in western Nepal. And 4 years ago, he started Vision Salvation Church in Kathmandu. Santi Oli was among the 44 church members who survived the earthquake. Her 16-year-old daughter, Manisha, did not. She was a servant of God, always encouraging and helping others, she told us.
After 39 hours, one brother is got rescued through the Turkish armed force. They were here to rescue him, and he's alive now. He's in the hospital.
His name is Vikram. When we met the 23-year-old at the hospital, he told us he was buried beneath a pile of bricks, trapped beside Pastor Elijah.
He said, "Death is near for me, but you will be rescued and the Holy Spirit will give you power to continue your ministry." After he passed, I felt like Jonah, trapped in the body of the whale. I prayed to God, "If you get me out of this, I will serve you for the rest of my life."
6 other church members were hospitalized, including the widow of a popular church elder who died in the quake. The Vision Salvation Church will now hold worship services in a new unfinished church building. And with Pastor Elijah's passing, Jacob will now lead the church in its goal of planting 777 churches in the Hindu nation.
I hope that because of this incident, because of this great disaster, God will do miracle thing in this land of Nepal.
Gary Lane, CBN News, Kathmandu, Nepal.
As many of you know, the world is rushing aid to Nepal, bringing water, food, and other desperately needed relief. Among the many Christian groups on the ground are CBN's Operation Blessing and Disaster Relief Ministries. And one of the first teams on the ground, a group of rescue workers from Israel. Once again, my colleague Gary Lane reports from Kathmandu.
It was a miraculous rescue in Kathmandu. When a team of first responders from Israel Aid arrived on the scene of this collapsed hotel building, they discovered someone was possibly trapped inside. French rescuers brought in high-tech sound equipment that detected breathing and a heartbeat beneath the rubble. Norwegian rescuers joined in. 8 hours later, Krishna Devi Kadka was freed from the concrete that had encapsulated her for 5 days. The international rescue effort gave Nepalis hope that their missing loved ones may still be alive, nearly 1 week after the earthquake. The Israel Aid rescuers were not the only Israelis among the first responders here in Nepal. Members of the Israeli Defense Forces arrived within hours after the earthquake and set up a sophisticated mobile mass unit to treat injured Nepalis. And 2 Israeli doctors have joined the CBN disaster relief team in Kathmandu, providing much-needed medical treatment.
Israelis are warm people, and they usually like to do and not to talk. So I see it many times that Israelis react very quickly. And actually Nepal has a very special place in the heart of many Israelis.
The doctors treated infected wounds, and many people with pneumonia and upper respiratory infections received medication. This woman was ill, Her condition got worse after the earthquake. She had no one to turn to for help.
I'm very happy with the team that came by today. They gave me medicine and I had the opportunity to meet the team members. I'm really thankful.
The CBN relief effort here in Nepal is truly an international one. It's not just the Israeli doctors that are providing medical care, but Dr. Carla here is from CBN Indonesia. She's here checking hearts, checking the health of the people, seeing what their needs are. We have other team members from other countries. We have Nepal represented here. We also have CBN India and the United States.
Because of our offices in around the world, we're able to quickly respond to disasters immediately, effectively, not having to send a team from America over a period of time. They can fly usually within an hour or 2 hours and be on the ground, on the scene to assist our partners in the country, which they've done in Nepal.
It's not only international that we work with Indians and Indonesian doctors and Americans and people from all over the world, but it's also interreligious, and I think it is very special.
In addition to the medical care, CBN has provided food for the hungry and tarps and mattresses for the homeless and displaced. When natural disasters like the Nepal earthquake strike and wreak havoc on a nation, Christians and Jews are often first responders.
You know, coming and being able to show that we care, support, allows us to be the hands and feet of Jesus Christ. CBN here has come with the presence to make a long-term sustainable impact. Their lives have been totally destroyed. They've been shaken. This earthquake has rattled the entire nation.
Gary Lane, CBN News, Kathmandu, Nepal.
If you want to help CBN's efforts to bring aid to the people of Nepal, just go to our website at cbnnews.com. Up next, cell phone video never seen before until now. A Muslim mob on a grisly rampage in the West African nation of Niger. Our CBN News exclusive when we come back.
Hello, I'm Terry Newsom. Did you know there are more than 148 million orphans in the world today? 148 million. But it was 3 little girls that taught me about the plight of orphans. 8 years ago, my husband and I spent nearly a month immersed in the daily activities of a Ukrainian orphanage as we waited to adopt 3 sisters. I saw firsthand the utter loneliness, the pain of rejection, and the overwhelming desire to be loved. That experience changed me forever. And out of it grew a ministry from my heart called Orphans Promise. Today, we're helping orphans and vulnerable children in more than 50 countries worldwide. Thousands of children are now in safe homes. They're being educated, and they're learning life skills. I'm asking you to join with me and become family to these children. Will you call the number on your screen right now? Because every child deserves a chance to be happy.
Inside every child is a hero, a leader, a friend to others, someone who helps out, who does the right thing, who dreams of what they can be, but they still need our help.
What should I do? What should I say? How should I feel?
That's where Superbook comes in. It provides moral and spiritual truths through situations children can relate to, teaching God's Word to the children you love. Join the Superbook DVD Club and receive Superbook's newest episodes as they're available, plus 2 copies to share with others, all for your gift of only $25. Get Superbook today and watch the miracles happen.
Welcome back to Christian World News. The Nigerian military reports it's rescued hundreds of girls and women from the terrorist group Boko Haram. The government says none of the girls who were abducted from a school in Chibok were among those rescued. Boko Haram kidnapped 276 girls, mostly Christian, back in April 2014. 57 escaped, but 219 are still being held. In an exclusive interview with CBN's Turning Point program, Nigeria's new president-elect says his government will do everything possible to rescue the Chibok girls.
We are committed to ensuring that we find those girls wherever they may be. There's no question at all that this is something that has really been heavy on the hearts of most Nigerians.
Nigeria's new vice president-elect is a well-known evangelical pastor. He, along with the country's newly elected president, is a Muslim. They will officially take control of Africa's most populous nation next month. Well, in the space of just a few hours, radical Muslims in one African country destroyed dozens of churches and several Christian homes. 10 people lost their lives and hundreds were injured when Muslim mobs went on a deadly rampage in Niger. Now, 3 months later, Christians there are moving forward, determined to still preach the gospel despite the dangers. This is exclusive, never-seen-before video of dozens of angry Muslims attacking, then burning Pastor Musa Isa's church.
They took pews, Bibles, chairs, and sound equipment, then set them on fire. They did this while chanting Allahu Akbar. I felt so sad. I started to cry.
The cell phone video also shows the crowd beating a church member.
I feel horrible when I watch the video. I ask myself, why? Why did they do this to us? What did we do to deserve this?
It happened January 17th, 10 days after 2 Muslim terrorists stormed the offices of French magazine Charlie Hebdo, executing 12 people for publishing satirical images of the Prophet Muhammad, 3,600 miles away in Niger. Muslims, angered by the cartoons, attacked the country's Christians in revenge.
We spent years building the church. Within minutes, it was all gone.
And it wasn't just Pastor Isa's church. How many churches, how many Christian homes were destroyed?
69 churches and 11 homes were destroyed. That's a total of 80 Christian buildings within a few hours.
They marked your home with a sign to let them know that this is a home that they must attack. Evangelical leader Burima Kimso says the viciousness of the attacks shocked the Christian community. In Zinder, Niger's second-largest city, attackers burned all but one church to the ground. And in the capital city, Niamey, 45 churches were destroyed, including Pastor Kimso's. You believe that this was systematic? You believe that this was premeditated attack on the churches of Niger?
Absolutely. It was premeditated. It was organized. It was shocking because systematically, in a few hours, churches were targeted and houses attacked. So it means that someone organized and executed this plan.
3 months later, the government has still not arrested anyone in connection with the attacks.
I tell our brothers and sisters that we don't wrestle against flesh and blood, but against principalities. We have to encourage ourselves because persecution is part of the life of the church. There is no church that existed without persecution.
In addition to destroying several churches, the rioters targeted Christian schools. This particular Christian school was home to some 240 students. The majority of them were Muslim. And as they ransacked each classroom, they left behind a message on the blackboard. This one reads, "There is no God but God, and the Prophet Muhammad is his messenger."
Well, I think they tried to.
One of the teachers, David Bai, now helps oversee rebuilding efforts.
I think this message on the blackboard, they're trying to tell us that we really don't belong here. This is a Muslim area and they want to keep it pure for them, and they don't want any Christians here.
An accusation Muslim leaders here flatly deny.
Islam is a religion of tolerance and peace. In Islam, we are not familiar with such acts of violence.
Boubacar Seydou is a key leader at Niger's largest mosque. He allowed CBN News to attend and document Friday prayers. In his first television interview since the attacks, Seydou denied that Muslims were involved in the attacks.
Muslims did not take part in these attacks. Sure, there were many Muslims protesting the cartoons, but no one pushed them to attack churches. I'm sure if we arrested some of those involved in the church burnings, you discovered that in fact, Christians were among those taking part in the violence. This is what is left of our bedroom. All our stuff was in here.
Pastor Zakaria Jadi, whose church and home were among those destroyed, says it's ludicrous to claim Christians were involved.
The mob kept chanting over and over in Arabic, "God is great, God is great," as they robbed and burned my home. I've lived with Muslims all my life. I know a Muslim when he stands in front of me.
By the way, the government is in negotiations with members of the Christian community to try and figure out how on earth they're going to rebuild all these churches. In the meantime, with so much of this place still in ruin, churches like this one, folks are gathering every Sunday right behind the cross. Pastor Jadi's wife, Ruth, holding her burned Bible, has forgiven the men who committed this atrocity.
My prayer is that they would come to know Jesus and the Lord would touch them, even in a dream. I want God to do to them what he did to Paul the Apostle when he persecuted Christians. God touched him on his way to Damascus. I want those men to experience the same touch from God.
That is Pastor Isa's prayer too. Today he spends time developing closer friendships with several of his Muslim neighbors who actually fought back as the mob destroyed the church and his home.
When the first and second wave of rioters came, some of my Muslim neighbors stood in front of the church. But as more rioters attacked with deadlier weapons, it became too dangerous. So I told my Muslim neighbors to let them in.
Pastor Jadi says the threats have not subsided. He's all right with that, though. He believes God is preparing Christians in Niger for great times of revival.
The Lord is training us. He's building us. There cannot be increase without hardships. If you want to go to the next level, you have to go through hardships.
There cannot be increase without hardships. While those Nigerian Christians are continuing to preach the gospel despite the risks, please continue to pray for them. Well, folks, up next, ISIS is targeting Christians in the Middle East. How this American Christian is training Iraqi believers to defend their community.
Hello? Is this thing on? Hey, kids, do you love games? And do you love discovering things? Well, do ya?
Then you're gonna love this. It's the new free Superbook Kids Bible app. You can play games, watch videos, find answers to your questions, and a whole lot more. The new Superbook Kids Bible app. Free downloads available on iTunes and Google Play now.
Hello, I'm Terry Newsom. Did you know there are more than 148 million orphans in the world today? 148 million. But it was 3 little girls that taught me about the plight of orphans. 8 years ago, my husband and I spent nearly a month immersed in the daily activities of a Ukrainian orphanage as we waited to adopt 3 sisters. I saw firsthand the utter loneliness, the pain of rejection, and the overwhelming desire to be loved. That experience changed me forever. And out of it grew a ministry from my heart called Orphans Promise. Today, we're helping orphans and vulnerable children in more than 50 countries worldwide. Thousands of children are now in safe homes. They're being educated, and they're learning life skills. I'm asking you to join with me and become family to these children. Will you call the number on your screen right now? Because every child deserves a chance to be happy.
Pentecost 2015. From the corners of the earth, believers gather in Jerusalem. Walk where Jesus walked. Pray in Gethsemane. Rejoice at the empty tomb. Don't miss messages from over 100 world-renowned speakers and a score of popular worship artists. For more information and to register for the Empowered 21 Global Congress, go to Jerusalem2015.com. This May, Jerusalem.
The U.S. State Department is blocking an Iraqi Christian nun's request to visit the United States. She wants to come to this country to speak out on behalf of persecuted Christians in the Middle East. But Sister Diana Momika's visa was denied. The reason? She is a displaced person, along with tens of thousands of Christians who are living in refugee camps. Religious freedom advocates are calling on the State Department to lift the ban on Sister Momika. Meanwhile, ISIS continues to threaten Iraq's Christian community. In the absence of international aid, some individuals are taking it upon themselves to help them. Recently, I spoke with Matthew Van Dyke of Sons of Liberty International. He's in northern Iraq, helping train Christian militia to defend their communities. What led you to start Sons of Liberty International?
Well, I had a lot of experience in the region, spent many years here, including in Iraq, And after the deaths of my friends James Foley and Stephen Sotloff, who were beheaded by ISIS, I decided to take what I had learned over here and the contacts I had and put them together to see what we could do for the Christian community to help them fight ISIS.
Tell us about these fighters you are training. Who are they? Where are they from?
Well, we've trained a battalion of around 330 fighters of the Nineveh Plains Protection Unit. They're Christian fighters. They're from northern Iraq, north of Mosul, and an area called Karakosh. It's a largely Christian area. They're very brave, very determined. They've lost a lot, though. The Christian population in Iraq has gone from around 1.3 million in 2003 to 300,000 or less now, and they're really fighting for the future of Christianity in Iraq.
What part, Matthew, does your Christian faith play in motivating and encouraging you to do what you do?
Well, this is something that I have gotten more comfortable speaking about, but to me, religion became a very personal thing that got me through when I was a prisoner in Libya. Like, I was in solitary confinement for nearly 6 months. I had nobody to talk to except for God. The only thing that got me through that every day was prayer. I was stuck in a room, literally staring at a wall for half of a year with just conversations with God. So that really grew my faith. And I see the faith, that same level of determination and that same reliance on God in the eyes of every Christian here in Iraq that's struggling to survive against the face of these just brutal terrorists. They've kidnapped Christian women, sold them into sexual slavery, forced them to be jihadi brides, slaughtered Christians, taken over their homes, destroyed monuments and churches of Christianity that have been here since the first few centuries of the faith. We haven't seen this level of Christian persecution in many centuries. You have attacks happening in Pakistan, twice now in Libya, Nigeria with Boko Haram, and here in Iraq and elsewhere. It seems to be accelerating. It's happening all over the world. And Christians need to stand up and defend the faith and defend their own people here before it's too late. We're seeing Christian populations being wiped out, driven out, and abused at the hands of usually Islamic extremists all around the world now.
Matthew Van Dyke is the founder of Sons of Liberty International, speaking to us via Skype from northern Iraq. Matthew, thank you so much for all you're doing. Please keep safe, and our prayers and thoughts continue to be with those believers, not just in Iraq, but across a large swath of the Middle East suffering for their faith. Matthew, thank you so much for joining us on the broadcast.
Thank you for having me.
For daily updates on the persecuted church, just visit our website at CBNnews.com. We'll be back right after this.
Give me that. Bye. Sure, life is busy, but I found a way to make a huge difference in people's lives. I guess you could say I'm changing the world right here from home. I bring medical supplies and doctors to people in need, and dig wells so that villagers can have clean and safe water to drink. I make it possible to preach the gospel in over 100 countries, including right here in America. And when disaster strikes, I'm there, providing food, thank you, and emergency supplies to give people hope again. Every day, CBN and I are making the world a better place. Here you go. My life is hectic, so I joined CBN through Pledge Express. My bank does all the work, and I know that my gift is being used where it's needed most. So become a CBN partner and join Pledge Express, because you can do a world of good right from where you are. Hi, good morning. Are you ready to get started?
Pat Robertson recently recorded a very special program to answer the question, does God still heal today?
What we're trying to do here, Scott, is to tell people how they can access the power of the living God through Jesus Christ.
Discover the answers and let your faith be encouraged.
And then Jesus spelled out of how we can have healing and how we can have miracles.
In Pat Robertson's latest DVD, Be Healed, you'll learn the biblical basis for healing today, how to exchange anxiety and worry for faith and confidence, the way to pray for your healing and healing for those you love. Plus, meet real people who've experienced the miraculous healing power of God.
The first thing I did was reached out for a lifesaver, and that was God. You know, you can put your trust in medicine, but the ultimate healing is going to have to be God.
Find out the biblical principles that lead to healing in Pat Robertson's latest teaching, Be Healed. Available now.
Christian missionaries, well, they travel to the far corners of the world to spread the gospel. Many places are just dots on the map and can be virtually inaccessible. But some places that used to take weeks or months to get to are now just an airplane ride away. That is, if you have a place to land. David Mims tells us how one Indonesian tribe made that happen and the Christian aviation group that came to visit.
Missionaries came to the village of Mokadoma in Papua, Indonesia, with a goal.
Our goal here is to plant a church that can reach out and reach the rest of the Wano people.
But first, they needed to get the Wano missionaries there. And to do that, they needed an airstrip. It took them years, working mostly with shovels and sticks and backbreaking labor.
2 years of work to get this thing done, and to see the plane circling by the first time, it's just surreal. It's just like it's happening, and he comes in and lands, and you just feel the emotions. You know, it's so cool to have an airplane land, touch the ground.
The plane belongs to Mission Aviation Fellowship. MAFE serves people living in isolated areas where transportation or communication is difficult. They enable the work of some 1,500 churches, healthcare organizations, relief agencies, and mission groups. They deliver Bible translation teams.
We're here to celebrate the finishing of the complete Bible in the Hoopla language. So this is it. This is exciting stuff for us. We've been partnering with the missionaries that have been working to translate this thing for years and years and years. And so it's just great to be able to come and join them in the celebration.
They fly mercy missions.
This is Mika. He was climbing in some trees yesterday with some other kids, and he fell, and a branch impaled his abdomen. A man that was there finally noticed him and pulled that branch off and ran to our house, and we could feel this piece of wood in there, you know, really like an inch and a half long, really clear, just above where it had gone in.
A frantic call for help was placed by shortwave radio to MAFE.
Lord, we just pray that the infection hasn't set in and that doctor can quickly take care of the issues and he and the family can come back here quickly. We put these things in your hands, in your name. Amen.
Mika and his family were flown to a hospital where doctors found that the wood had pierced both small intestine walls. He was rushed to surgery. In less than a week, Mika had recovered enough to be flown home.
We were really thankful because if that wood stayed in there any longer, it could cause infection. Even another day or two could have made things much worse.
Remember that airstrip we talked about earlier? Well, it's used to fly newly trained Wano missionaries to other parts of the island to share the word.
These are my two good friends, Dugiru and Liku, and they're from our home village of Mokandoma. They've become mature in their faith, and now they're down here in the lowlands in Iratoi, sharing the teaching, the good news to some of their relatives that live down here.
Each year, MAFE US serves more than 600 nonprofit, local government, and mission organizations all over the world. They enable ministries to provide isolated people with vital services and goods while sharing the love of Christ in a tangible way. Some call them God's Air Force. I'm David Mims, CBN News.
And on that encouraging note, thank you so much for joining us this week. Until next week, goodbye and God bless you.